All right, everyone, it's time to talk about the Panama Canal. Yet again, it's big in the news for a reason. A significant proportion of all of the world's shipping goes through the Panama Canal. It is an enormous amount of tonnage that goes through there every single day. It is a critical piece of infrastructure. It was built by the United States after the French abandoned their first attempt because of attrition due to yellow fever mainly, and other tropical diseases as well. But we plowed on and made the Panama Canal. Then we expanded the Panama Canal. And then subsequent administrations, Carter and Clinton namely, decided to screw up and gave away the canal. Carter effectively gave it away, but we were managing it. And then Clinton effectively said, well, we don't have any further interest in the Panama Canal. No, we have no military or strategic interest in a canal that cuts down the shipping time between the Atlantic and Pacific coasts by a substantial amount and brings a huge amount of money to our country. By the way, we've still got a military alliance with Panama. Most people don't know this. There's a Latin American alliance with the United States that is quite vast, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if more countries jump aboard now that our military is being rebuilt. What Trump should do, in my opinion, and I'll give a little bit of the backstory because we'll talk about the Nicaragua Canal idea and things like that as well, attended to China. China currently holds a great deal of influence in Panama and basically owns the ports there. The ports are supposed to be given to BlackRock. Now, I'm not a fan of BlackRock for obvious reasons, but I would rather the United States more broadly manage the portage there and that our military had access and things like that than that China does. It's quite clear what China's doing. I'll get to that in a moment. But here's one thing that I noticed, and it's a mystery to me. Liberals and the legacy media keep telling me it's a conspiracy theory when Trump says that China owns Panama and or the Panama Canal more broadly. Then why are Chinese regulators, link in the description, blocking the sale? How is it that Chinese regulators, by the way, invoking the concept of a free market in the process? I shit you not. Read the friggin' link. They're invoking the concept of free movement of goods and free markets. This is the communist country saying this in order to justify blocking the sale. Well, how can they block the sale of these ports if they don't have undue influence over Panama? What I would recommend is that Trump invoke the Monroe Doctrine, say this is our hemisphere, get out. And we can sweeten the deal on multiple levels. We expand the canal, we pay off Panama's national debt, and we increase our alliance because we're so reliant on the Panama Canal. If you were to expand it, by the way, Panama would become filthy rich. It's possible to do. We've already expanded it once before. It's not impossible. We can do anything that we want. We just have to have the will to do it. And nobody's going to get in our way. What's going to happen? China's going to land troops in Panama to attack our workers or something like that? That would be asinine. It wouldn't make any sense. Now, to the Nicaragua Canal and China's long-term plans. China has already established portage in Panama, a base in Nicaragua. It's allied with Cuba. It's part of the goal. What China's trying to do is effectively colonize the Caribbean region by ingratiating itself to these countries, and it needs the canal in order to get there because it is a Pacific nation, not an Atlantic nation. So they can't just waltz into the Caribbean, they have to have the ability to actually get there. I'm assuming that they're not going to be sending naval groups or ships down across the southern tip of Chile and Argentina near Antarctica. That wouldn't make any sense. Much quicker and easier to use the Panama Canal. They want to make sure that the United States, which is the lord of this hemisphere, is not capable of blockading them should any problems happen. They want to be able to move resources, especially, I believe, of a military nature, into that area. Now, when the Nicaragua Canal was first proposed, I had so many people, um, West skeptics mostly, Sinophiles, telling me, well, China's going to outdo the United States. China rising. They're going to have a Nicaragua Canal. I said, they're never going to build it. It's not the point. It would be completely Useless to build a Nicaragua Canal. What are you talking about? What they want is a military base. They want a springboard. They want to have something there for in case things pop off in Panama where they're trying to build influence. This is exactly what I said at the time, because they want access to the Caribbean. They want access to the Gulf of Mexico, effectively. And they told me I was crazy. No, no, China rising. They're going to build a big ass canal. It's going to be better than the Panama Canal, and nobody will use the Panama Canal anymore, and the United States sucks. Well, did they build their canal in Nicaragua, or did they grandstand before the Nicaraguan farmers, backing down seemingly as a facade, and then build a naval base? Oh, the latter. Well, what a surprise. They've completely abandoned their original plans. That's because that was never the plan from the get-go. The plan was to have something further up through the Gulf, closer to the United States, and to safeguard their asset, which is the Panama Canal. Liberal commentators can tell me all day that China doesn't own the Panama Canal. But when their regulators are capable of unilaterally blocking the sale of that zone, which we could massively improve, which we could massively fortify, which we could expand, and we could help the Panamanian people on level red. When Chinese regulators are capable of unilaterally saying no to that, is it Panama that controls the canal, or is it China that controls the canal? It's China. Trump is fundamentally correct. Invoke the fucking Monroe Doctrine. Go in there and guns not blazing because the Chinese are not actually going to do jack shit. Go ahead and stage a landing. If you have to send a massive wave of troops in and contractors and engineers and everything else from a neighboring country and then march them to the goddamn canal, you're not going to be confronted by security forces. You're not going to be confronted by anything. It'll be a little bit like the invasion of Naboo by the droid army or something like that. It'll be completely lopsided. The Chinese are not going to attack U.S. forces. They're not crazy enough to do that. Even if China ordered them to fight, they probably wouldn't, honestly. None of them have combat experience, by the way, so that's rather helpful. We should seize the canal. Then we can negotiate. Say, look, we built it in the first place. The canal is ours. But we're not going to screw you. And that's not the goal. The goal is actually to make you a bunch of money. We'll pull our own investments and we'll expand it even further. We just want portage and a bunch of other shit too, like stop taxing our vessels excessively. That's all we need to do. Then it lowers the cost for Americans. It makes Panama a bunch of money, a shit ton of money, actually. You can make the third canal lock system even bigger than the other two. I think the second one is actually bigger than the first, so it accepts more tonnage. You could double it if you wanted to. We've got the capability, engineering wise. It wouldn't even be that difficult. It would just take a while. In the meantime, again, pay off Panama's national debt, make sure that they're safe, and form a better alliance with them. We can make an even more fast friend, actually. Current government leans more towards China. Well, that's regrettable because it's not their hemisphere. They're in Asia, not in the Americas. That's about all. Peace out.